Good afternoon. My name is Janet North, and I'm a public health consultant with Eden 2, a nonprofit organization that provides support and resources to vulnerable populations in crises. Today, I'm here to talk about one such population, which I consider to be an indicator population, and the environment along the Northwest Passage, which is in crisis. The elusive Northwest Passage consists of water routes between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The systemic effect of climate change has resulted in an increase in ambient and sea temperatures, rendering the Northwest Passage nearly ice-free in 2007, thus revealing its path. These conditions enabled the first cruise ship to complete the passage in 2016. The melting of the Arctic sea ice gives rise to the possibilities of new trade routes and energy production, and in contrast, rings the alarm, signaling an alert to the potential environmental damages to a relatively untouched part of the Earth and adverse pending health concerns for many previously isolated indigenous people. Previously known as Eskimos, the Inuits' roots began in northwestern Alaska. Early interactions with European and American explorers brought useful manufactured products to the Inuit communities, knowledge of the outside world, and unfortunately infectious diseases which they had no natural immunities, causing an increase in the mortality rates of the indigenous inhabitants. One group from Southampton Island vanished completely around 1903 after contracting dysentery from Scottish sailors. In the 1900s, Inuits were also subject to other diseases resulting from vitiated soil and water due to nuclear waste dumping and flora and fauna radiation experimentations. While all these events took place in the shadow of the search for the Northwest Passage, you can imagine the effects that will be brought on upon its opening. Scientists are conjecturing that the changes seen in the Arctic will influence the overall rate of global warming, changes in weather patterns and severity, sea levels, and many ecosystems and species. Because the Northwest Passage is a much shorter route, the race is on to stake legal claim to its resource. Environmental pros, a boost to the economy via mining and tourism and new trades and research, but at what cost? The cost? More pollution, invasive species, and illegal activities. So the question then becomes, are the economic opportunities and financial gain worth the risk to this delicate environment? And do they also outweigh the public health risks? Lorgan states that even with stringent pollution controls in place to help mitigate health issues, the impact on various ecosystems and public health is still inevitable due to the vulnerability of this region and its inhabitants. Although this new passage brings better access to health care and advanced medical treatment and technology, much like the diseases brought over by the early explorers, the impact on the indigenous people can be devastating. Lorgan further stressed that we should be concerned about what is happening in the Arctic and subarctic, reminding us that we are all connected.
The Earth's sea levels are rising. That's undeniable. Global warming is causing much of the planet's ice to melt and oceans to expand, pushing sea levels higher. In 2014, researchers reported that the West Antarctic glaciers had retreated past the point of no return. The ice melt is now unstoppable. If all of Earth's land ice were to melt, our oceans would rise 216 feet. So what would the United States look like after this increase? Out west, the coastline cities will get slammed. The Gulf of California will stretch north past San Diego, which would be completely swallowed by the Pacific. California's Central Valley will flood, reducing San Francisco to a cluster of hills peaking above the water's surface. Farther north, Portland and Seattle will just be a remnant of what they once were, both looking more like sets of islands than bustling cities. Along the Gulf of Mexico, Houston and New Orleans will have disappeared. Researchers at LSU predicted that up to 5,200 square miles of the Mississippi Delta will disappear in the next 85 years. As for Florida, the entire state will be drowned by the Atlantic Ocean, along with the rest of the eastern seaboard. DC, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, all gone. All in all, rising seas of this magnitude could displace hundreds of millions of U.S. residents and destroy most of the country's most prosperous cities.
When asked what was the most effective action to take to protect this environment, Carr said it best: don't run ships through there. It's a no-brainer, but that's just not realistic. Indigenous people are the foot soldiers who stand at the precipice of our war on climate change. It is through their eyes and experiences that we can see the effects global warming will have on our planet. They are the first responders to this impending global disaster, and we should not only listen to what they have to say based on their traditional knowledge and adaptability of their survival skills, but also provide them with the necessary tools for implementation. Additionally, limiting the number of tourists allowed per season will help avoid the rapid depletion of the resources, encroaching upon cultural activities and placing a strain on the community's infrastructure. The foundation has been laid via the Paris Agreement. However, for those countries that choose not to participate in the agreement, Lorgan suggests international agreements with teeth so they can be enforced. The next move for the global community is to build upon agreements which will require compliance and hefty penalties in the event requirements are not met. The best way to know the policy was a success would be via accurate data received from NASA, NOAA, EPA, CDC, various international governments, and local communities. It would be unrealistic to think that the problem will be solved immediately, but by continually monitoring changes, scientists will be able to see a trend. Scientists, along with Northwest Passage communities and so many other stakeholders, such as yourself, will ultimately determine the success of the policy. And the challenge we are faced with is finding the balance between the threats to the Arctic regions and potential opportunities. This cannot be done in a vacuum. It will take all hands on deck to solve this global problem.